Talk Ava. Learn English with confidence.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about two English words that many learners confuse, rob and steal. They both describe crimes, but native speakers use them in different ways. Once you understand the difference, you'll sound much more natural when talking about news stories or everyday situations.
That's true. I often hear learners say things like, someone stole me, or a thief robbed my phone. Native speakers understand what they mean, but those sentences don't sound natural because each verb has a different focus.
That's exactly what we'll explore today. We won't focus on legal definitions or complicated grammar. Instead, we'll learn through real-life conversations that show how native speakers actually use these words.
By the end of today's conversation, you'll know when to use rob and when to use steal without stopping to think about it.
Let's begin with steal.
Imagine you leave your bicycle outside a cafe for a few minutes.
When you come back, it's gone.
Your friend asks, what happened?
You say, someone stole my bicycle.
That's a very natural sentence.
Here, steal focuses on the thing that was taken.
The bicycle is the object.
Now, let's change the situation.
Imagine the police are asking what happened.
They ask, which cafe were you visiting?
You reply, someone robbed the cafe last night.
That's different.
Here, rob focuses on the person or place that lost something.
That's the biggest difference.
Steal is about the thing that is taken.
Rob is about the person or place that is targeted.
Let's compare them.
Someone stole my wallet.
Someone robbed the convenience store.
Same event.
Different focus.
Here's another everyday example.
Imagine your neighbor tells you their phone disappeared while they were shopping.
They say, someone stole my phone.
That's the natural way to say it.
Now imagine you hear a news report.
The reporter says, a local jewelry store was robbed early this morning.
That's another common sentence.
The report is focusing on the business,
not the individual items inside it.
Here's another situation.
You're talking with a friend about a movie.
One character secretly takes an expensive painting.
You say, the thief stole the painting.
Later in the movie, another group enters a bank and takes money.
You say, they robbed the bank.
Notice how naturally native speakers switch between these verbs.
Here's something learners often do.
Go ahead.
They say, someone robbed my laptop.
Native speakers would usually say, someone stole my laptop.
Because the laptop is the thing that was taken.
If you want to use rob, you'd normally say, someone robbed me.
Or someone robbed my office.
That's much more natural.
Let's imagine another conversation.
You're having coffee with a friend.
Your friend looks a little upset.
You ask, is everything okay?
They reply, someone stole my bicycle this morning.
A little later, they add, the police said several passengers were robbed that day.
That's another natural conversation.
Here's another example.
You're watching the evening news.
The reporter says a supermarket was robbed overnight.
A few moments later, they continue.
The thieves stole cash and several electronic devices.
Both words appear in the same news report.
One focuses on the place.
The other focuses on the things that were taken.
Once you begin connecting steal with the object,
and rob with the person or place,
choosing the right word becomes much easier.
Before we continue, we have a question for everyone listening today. Question for you. Which sentence sounds more natural to you? Someone stole my wallet or someone robbed the store? Can you write your own sentence using either rob or steal in the comments? We'd love to read your examples.
Your examples always help other learners because everyone thinks of different real-life situations, and that's one of the best ways to build natural English.
If today's conversation is helping you understand everyday English more clearly, don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with another English learner.
Thanks for joining us today.
Let's look at a few everyday situations where native speakers naturally choose between rob and steal. Once you hear enough examples, you'll stop translating these words and start noticing what the speaker is focusing on.
That's true, because native speakers usually think about one simple question. Are they talking about the person or place, or are they talking about the thing that was taken?
Imagine you're having lunch with a coworker.
Your coworker looks a little upset.
You ask, is everything okay?
They reply, someone stole my bicycle this morning.
That's a very natural sentence.
The bicycle is the object that disappeared.
Here's another situation.
You're watching the evening news after work.
The news presenter says, a local bank was robbed early this morning.
That's another sentence you'll hear quite often.
The report is talking about the bank.
Not the money itself.
A few seconds later, the reporter adds, the thieves stole a large amount of cash.
Now the focus changes.
This time, the cash is the object.
Same event.
Different focus.
Here's another example.
You're talking with your neighbor.
They tell you someone broke into their garage overnight.
You ask, what happened?
They answer, someone stole my tools.
That's exactly how native speakers would say it.
The tools are the things that were taken.
Later, they say, our whole neighborhood has been robbed several times this year.
Now they're talking about the people who were affected.
Here's something learners sometimes ask.
What's that?
They ask if they can say, someone robbed my wallet.
Native speakers would normally say, someone stole my wallet.
Because the wallet is the object.
If you want to use rob, you could say, someone robbed me.
Or, someone robbed the store.
That's the natural pattern.
Let's imagine another conversation.
You're watching a detective series.
One character quietly enters a museum at night.
They steal a valuable painting.
Later, another group enters a jewelry store with masks.
They rob the jewelry store.
Those two sentences sound completely natural.
One focuses on the painting.
The other focuses on the business.
Here's another everyday situation.
You're chatting with a friend after work.
Your friend says, I forgot to lock my car.
You ask what happened.
They reply, someone stole my backpack.
A police officer arrives and asks a few questions.
The officer says, has anyone else been robbed in this parking lot recently?
That's another realistic conversation.
Let's think about another example.
You're reading an online news article.
The headline says, family robbed while on vacation.
When you read the article, it explains what happened.
It says the thieves stole jewelry, passports, and cash.
That's how newspapers often use these verbs together.
The family was robbed.
Their belongings were stolen.
Here's another conversation.
Two friends are discussing safety while traveling.
One says, I always keep my phone in my front pocket.
The other asks why.
They reply, a friend of mine had their phone stolen while traveling.
Then they add, another tourist was robbed outside the train station.
Those two sentences describe different parts of similar situations.
Here's a useful learning tip.
I think this one makes everything much easier.
If you're talking about money, a phone, a bicycle, a bag, or any object, think steal.
If you're talking about a person, a family, a business, a house, or a bank, think rob.
That simple habit makes choosing the correct word much easier.
And after enough listening practice, you'll begin using rob and steal naturally without stopping to think about grammar.
There's another reason rob and steal can be confusing. Sometimes both words appear in the same story, but they're describing different parts of the same event.
That's a good point. Native speakers don't think about which words sound more difficult. They think about what they're describing.
Imagine you're reading the morning newspaper.
One headline says, a local pharmacy was robbed last night.
That's a very common headline.
The story is focusing on the business.
As you continue reading, the article explains what happened.
It says the thieves stole cash and several expensive medicines.
Now the focus has changed.
The medicines and cash are the things that were taken.
Same story.
Different focus.
Here's another situation.
You're talking with a friend during lunch.
Your friend says, my uncle owns a small convenience store.
You ask how business is going.
They reply, the store was robbed a few months ago.
Then they continue, the thieves stole money from the cash register.
That's another conversation you'll hear naturally.
Here's something learners sometimes notice.
Go ahead.
They hear someone say, I was robbed.
That's a very common expression.
It means someone took things from that person.
But if you're talking about the object itself, you'd usually use steal.
For example, someone stole my watch.
Or someone stole my laptop.
Those sound much more natural.
Let's imagine another everyday conversation.
You're traveling in another city.
A tourist asks a police officer for help.
They say, I was robbed while I was walking back to my hotel.
The officer asks what was taken.
The tourist replies, they stole my passport and my wallet.
That's exactly how native speakers describe that situation.
Here's another example.
Two neighbors are talking outside.
One says, "Did you hear what happened to the house across the street?"
The other says, "Yes, it was robbed over the weekend."
A few moments later, they add, "The thieves stole several pieces of jewelry."
That's another natural conversation.
Here's something useful to remember.
I think this helps a lot.
Rob often answers the question, who or what was the target?
A person,
A family,
a bank,
a store.
a house.
Steal answers a different question.
What was taken?
A phone,
A bicycle,
a purse.
a painting.
That simple difference makes these verbs much easier.
Let's think about another situation.
You're watching a crime documentary.
The narrator says several homes were robbed during the holiday season.
A few minutes later, the narrator explains what happened.
It says the criminals stole electronics, jewelry, and cash.
That's another example of both verbs appearing together naturally.
Here's another conversation.
Your coworker tells you about something that happened to a friend.
They say, "My friend was robbed while traveling abroad."
You ask if everything is okay.
They reply, "The thieves stole their passport, phone, and camera."
That's a conversation you might hear after someone returns from a trip.
Here's one final example.
You're watching the local news.
The reporter says a museum was robbed late Sunday night.
Then they explain that the thieves stole several valuable historical objects.
That's exactly how journalists naturally use these two verbs.
Once you begin thinking about the target versus the object, choosing between rob and steal becomes much easier.
And after enough real conversations, you'll stop translating these words and start using them the way native speakers do. Let's spend some time on the expressions and situations where native speakers naturally use rob and steal. These are the kinds of conversations you'll hear in news reports, everyday discussions, and stories people tell after something unexpected happens.
I like this part because you'll notice that native speakers don't think about grammar. They simply think about what they're describing, the person or place, or the thing that disappeared.
Imagine you're having dinner with your family.
Your brother says he saw a news report on television.
You ask what happened.
He says, "A restaurant downtown was robbed last night."
That's a very natural sentence.
The restaurant is the place that was targeted.
Then he adds another detail.
The thieves stole cash and several computers.
Now the focus is on the things that were taken.
Same event.
Different focus.
Here's another situation.
You're talking with a coworker during your lunch break.
Your coworker looks disappointed.
You ask what's wrong.
They reply, "Someone stole my bicycle while I was at work."
That's exactly how native speakers describe it.
The bicycle is the object.
Later, another coworker joins the conversation.
They say, "A few people have been robbed near that train station recently."
Now the focus is on the people.
Here's another example.
You're reading an article online.
The headline says, "Historic library robbed during the night."
As you continue reading, the article explains what happened.
It says the criminals stole several rare historical books.
That's another common pattern.
The library was robbed.
The books were stolen.
Here's something learners sometimes ask.
What's that?
They wonder if they can say, "Someone robbed my phone,"
Native speakers would normally say, "Someone stole my phone."
because the phone is the object.
If you're talking about yourself, you'd usually say, "Someone robbed me."
That's the difference you'll hear again and again.
Let's imagine another everyday conversation.
You're chatting with your neighbor.
Your neighbor says, "We forgot to lock the garage last night."
You ask if everything is okay.
They reply, "Someone stole my toolbox."
Then they add, "A few houses on this street were robbed last month."
That's another realistic conversation.
Here's another situation.
You're watching a crime documentary.
The narrator says, "The museum was robbed after closing time."
A few moments later, the narrator explains the details.
The thieves stole several valuable paintings.
That's exactly how documentaries often use these verbs.
Here's something interesting.
Go ahead.
Native speakers often use steal in everyday situations that aren't dramatic.
That's true.
Someone might say, "Who stole my pen?"
Or, someone stole my sandwich from the office refrigerator.
Those are casual conversations.
On the other hand, rob often sounds more serious because it usually involves people or places,
Such as a store,
a bank,
a family.
or a business.
Let's compare two short conversations.
A student says, "Someone stole my calculator."
A teacher replies, "The school wasn't robbed. It looks like only one item is missing."
Both sentences sound completely natural.
One focuses on the object.
The other focuses on the place.
Here's another real-life example.
You're visiting your cousin for the weekend.
During dinner, your cousin tells you about something that happened in the neighborhood.
They say, "A small grocery store was robbed a few days ago."
You ask if anyone was hurt.
They reply, "No, but the thieves stole money from the cash register."
That's another conversation you'll hear naturally.
One sentence focuses on the store.
The other focuses on the money. Let's imagine another example.
You're waiting for a train.
Two passengers are talking nearby.
One says, "Someone stole my suitcase while I was buying a ticket."
The other replies, "I'm sorry to hear that."
Then they add, "My cousin was robbed while traveling last year."
Those are two different situations, but the pattern stays the same.
Here's something learners sometimes don't notice.
Go ahead.
Native speakers often say, "be robbed."
That's very common.
For example, he was robbed.
They were robbed.
The family was robbed.
Those expressions appear frequently in everyday English and in news reports,
But with steal, the focus stays on the object.
such as, "Someone stole my camera,"
Or, someone stole my passport.
or "Someone stole my bicycle."
Those are very common sentences.
Here's another everyday situation.
You're talking with a friend after they return from a music festival.
You ask how everything went.
Your friend says, "It was fun, but someone stole my wallet."
Then they continue.
A few other people were robbed during the festival too.
That's exactly how native speakers describe those events.
Let's think about another conversation.
You're watching a local news program.
The reporter says, "A family was robbed while they were away on vacation."
A few moments later, the reporter explains what was missing.
The thieves stole several watches, laptops, and cash.
That's another example where both verbs appear naturally in the same report.
Here's another situation.
Two students are talking after class.
One says, "I can't find my headphones."
The other jokes, "Maybe someone stole them."
Then another student joins the conversation.
They say, "Last semester, a student was robbed near the bus stop."
That's another realistic exchange.
Here's a useful learning tip.
I think this one makes remembering the difference much easier.
If you can point to the thing that disappeared, you're probably looking for steal.
If you can point to the person or the place that suffered the crime, you're probably looking for rob.
That's a simple question you can ask yourself every time.
After enough listening practice, you won't need to think about grammar rules anymore.
You'll naturally choose steal for the object and rob for the person or place.
Let's bring everything together with a few longer conversations. These examples sound very close to the way native speakers actually speak, and you'll notice that rob and steal appear naturally depending on what the speaker wants to emphasize.
That's one of the best ways to learn because you're hearing the words in real situations instead of trying to remember a grammar rule.
Imagine two friends are talking over coffee after the weekend.
One friend says, "I had a terrible experience on Saturday.
The other asks, "What happened?"
I parked my bicycle outside the bookstore for a few minutes."
"Was everything okay when you came back?"
"No, someone had stolen my bicycle."
That's a sentence you'll hear naturally.
The bicycle is the thing that disappeared.
The conversation continues.
The friend says, "The police told me several people had been robbed in that area recently."
Now the focus changes to the victims.
Same topic.
Different focus.
Here's another situation.
Two coworkers are discussing the morning news.
One says, "Did you hear about the jewelry store downtown?"
The other replies, "Yes, it was robbed overnight."
A few moments later, they continue talking.
One coworker says, "I read that the thieves stole several expensive watches."
That's another conversation you'll hear naturally.
The store was robbed.
The watches were stolen.
Let's imagine another example.
A family is having dinner together.
One teenager says, "My friend had a strange day at school."
Another family member asks what happened.
Someone stole his backpack while he was playing basketball.
Then the conversation continues.
His parents said another student had been robbed a few weeks earlier.
That's another realistic conversation.
Here's something interesting.
Go ahead.
Native speakers often tell the same story using both words.
That's true.
Someone might say, "My uncle's store was robbed."
Then they add, the thieves stole cash, computers, and several phones.
Both sentences describe the same event.
They simply focus on different parts of the story.
Let's think about another everyday conversation.
You're talking with your neighbor.
Your neighbor says, "Our mailbox was broken into."
You ask if anything was missing.
They reply, "Someone stole a few important letters."
Then they add, a few houses on this street were robbed last month.
That's another natural exchange.
Here's another example.
You're watching a travel program.
The host is giving safety tips.
They say, "Keep your passport somewhere safe because pickpockets sometimes steal wallets and phones."
A little later, the host adds, every year some tourists are robbed in crowded areas.
That's the kind of advice you'll often hear in travel videos.
Here's another situation.
Two university students are walking home after class.
One says, I always lock my bicycle.
The other asks why.
They reply, a friend of mine had their bicycle stolen last semester.
Then they continue.
Another student was robbed while walking home late one evening.
Those two sentences sound completely natural because each verb has its own purpose.
Here's one final conversation.
A father is talking with his teenage son.
The son says, I can't find my headphones.
The father asks where he last saw them.
The son replies, I left them in the school library.
The father says, maybe someone stole them.
Then he adds, if anything serious happened, let the school know. Sometimes people report being robbed near busy places.
That's another everyday conversation where both words fit naturally.
Once you begin thinking about who lost something and what was taken, the difference becomes much easier to remember.
And after enough listening practice, you'll naturally choose rob or steal without stopping to think about grammar. We've reached the final part of today's conversation, so let's review everything with one simple idea. If you remember this idea, you'll know when to use rob and when to use steal in everyday English.
That's a great goal because these two verbs appear in news reports, conversations with friends, movies, and even travel advice. Once you understand the difference, you'll sound much more natural.
Let's start with the first question you should ask yourself.
Are you talking about the thing that was taken?
If the answer is yes, steal is usually the correct verb.
Think about a phone,
A wallet,
a bicycle,
a laptop.
a passport.
Those are all objects.
Now ask yourself another question.
Are you talking about the person or the place that lost something?
If that's your focus, rob is usually the better choice.
Let's practice with a few final situations.
Imagine you're talking with a friend after work.
Your friend looks worried.
You ask what's wrong.
They say, someone stole my phone while I was riding the bus.
That's a very natural sentence.
The phone is the object.
A few minutes later, your friend continues the story.
The police told me several passengers had been robbed on that route this month.
Now the focus changes to the people.
Here's another example.
Imagine you're watching the evening news.
The reporter says, a clothing store was robbed after closing time.
Then the report explains what happened.
The thieves stole expensive jackets, shoes, and cash.
That's exactly how native speakers tell the story.
Here's another situation.
You're visiting your grandparents.
Your grandfather tells you about something that happened years ago.
He says, our family was robbed while we were away on vacation.
You ask what happened.
He replies, "The thieves stole several watches and some old family photographs."
That's another natural conversation.
Here's one more example.
You're chatting with your neighbor.
Your neighbor says, "Someone broke into my garage."
You ask if anything is missing.
They reply, "Yes, someone stole my bicycle and my toolbox."
Then they add, "A few other homes were robbed last winter."
That's another realistic conversation.
Here's something that helps many learners remember the difference.
I think this memory trick is simple.
Imagine you're looking at a table.
On the table are a phone, a wallet, a watch, and a set of keys.
If one of those things disappears, think steal.
Now imagine the owner of that table.
If you're talking about that person, think rob.
The object was stolen.
The person was robbed.
That simple picture makes the difference much easier to remember.
Here's one final conversation.
Two friends are talking after reading an online news article.
One says, "Did you read about the art gallery?"
The other replies, "Yes, it was robbed over the weekend."
The first friend asks what the thieves took.
The second friend says they stole several valuable paintings.
That's another perfect example of how both verbs work together.
Don't worry if you occasionally mix these words up. They're connected to the same type of event, so it's normal for English learners to need some practice.
The important thing is to remember what you're talking about. If your sentence focuses on the object, use steal. If it focuses on the person or place, use rob.
After enough listening practice, you'll stop translating these verbs and start choosing the correct one naturally.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. We hope this conversation has helped you feel much more confident using rob and steal in everyday English.
Keep improving with our English podcast for learning, easy English learning, real-life English conversation, English shadowing practice, English conversation and shadowing practice, English vocabulary and expressions, English podcast for daily life English, and simple English conversations. Keep practicing every day, learn more, speak better, and we'll see you in the next conversation.